Tracy McGrady made basketball look easy in a way that almost didn't make sense. The long strides, the high release, the smooth pull-up, the feeling that he could get to any shot he wanted without ever looking rushed. That's why his story still hurts. Not because people forgot how good he was, because they remember exactly how good he was, and still feel like the game never got enough of it.
The guy that always gave me the most problems actually was Tracy McGrady. Tracy McGrady with his, he had all the skills and all the athleticism.
Tracy McGrady made basketball look too easy. That's where his story starts. Not with injury, not with disappointments, not with what if, with beauty. Because before people talk about what went wrong with Tracy McGrady, they usually talk about how it looked. The smoothness, the length, the effortless scoring, the kind of game that made hard offense look casual. That's what made TMac different. A lot of great scorers make you feel the work. McGrady often made you feel the opposite. One dribble, rise up, bucket. Long defender in front of him? Didn't matter. Help coming from the baseline? Didn't matter. He had the kind of game that made defenders look like they were always a half step late, even when they weren't.
It's a slap in the face, man. For that man not to be on the top 75, you can't name 75 players better than Tracy McGrady, man.
That is rare. And that is why his story still carries so much weight. Because people don't remember Tracy McGrady like a player who lacked brilliance. They remember him like a player the league never fully got to keep. That's different. From early on, the talent was obvious. Toronto saw it first. Young TMac coming off the bench behind Vince Carter. All long arms and smooth athleticism, flashes everywhere. You could already see the outline. The dunks, the pull-ups, the easy glide in the open floor. The feeling that there was a much bigger version of this player still coming. Then he got to Orlando, and that bigger version showed up fast. That's when the league really saw it. Because once Tracy McGrady became the main guy, the whole game opened up for him in a different way. Now there was more space, more responsibility, more pressure, more chances to create. And somehow, he made all of that look elegant too. That's what made him such a special scorer. He wasn't just productive, he was beautiful. The high release on the jumper, the easy elevation, the long gliding drives. The way he could get downhill without looking frantic, then stop and rise over the top. It never looked forced. That's what people still remember. Not just that he scored, how easy he made elite scoring look. By 2002-03, it was obvious what level he had reached. 32.1 points per game, scoring title, one of the most dangerous offensive players in basketball. And it wasn't fake volume. It was real shot creation, real star pressure, real defensive attention every night. Everybody knew where the ball was going, and it still didn't matter. That's the kind of talent he had. Then he did it again in 2003-04. Another scoring title. That matters. Because now this wasn't just a gifted wing having a hot stretch. Now it was established. Tracy McGrady was one of the most naturally gifted perimeter stars in the league. And when a player reaches that kind of level, people start imagining the full version of the story. Not just all-star teams, not just scoring titles, something bigger. Long playoff runs, deep postseason moments, a fuller prime, a legacy with fewer questions. That's what makes his story so painful, because it didn't feel like the beginning of something small. It felt like the beginning of something enormous. And that's where the sadness lives. Not in confusion, in clarity. Everybody could see it. That's what makes TMac such a strong Hardwood Untold story. The game was obvious. The talent was obvious. The eye test, the numbers, the smoothness, the shot making, all of it was obvious. And when the gift is that clear, interruption feels cruel. That's the word that fits his story best. Interruption. Because Tracy McGrady's career doesn't feel like one clean arc. It feels like greatness getting broken up before people were ready to let it go. And some of the most painful parts came in the playoffs. That matters too, because this is where people always go with TMac. The first round exits, the missed chances, the feeling that the resume never fully matched the talent.
You know I love you. It's unfortunate that you have to fall in that BS category. You don't have a championship, whatever. I always thought you was one of the great players. You gave it to all of the greats.
And yeah, that's part of the story. But even there, the talent kept showing itself. In 2003 against Detroit, Orlando went up 3-1 in the series. That's still one of the hardest checkpoints in his story, because for a second, it looked like the breakthrough was there. Then the series flipped. Detroit won the next 3 games. The Magic were done. And what people remember now is not just the loss, it's the feeling that a player that gifted should have had more chances than this. That's the thing about TMac. Even his disappointments feel heavier because the talent was so loud. Then came Houston. And that should have been the next chapter. Yao Ming, a new team, a bigger stage, a real chance to build something dangerous. And for stretches, you could see it. This is where some of his most unforgettable moments happened. Not because the whole story finally came together, but because the brilliance kept breaking through anyway. December 9th, 2004. Houston versus San Antonio. 35 seconds left. The Rockets are down 8. Then TMac goes crazy. A 3, another 3, a 4-point play, then one more 3 over Bruce Bowen. 13 points in 35 seconds.
Kevin Brown lost it. Here comes McGrady. No timeouts remaining. McGrady for the win. Yeah!
That moment matters because it shows exactly why people talk about Tracy McGrady the way they do. That wasn't normal talent. That was one of the most gifted scorers in the world, turning a dead game into something unforgettable in less than a minute. And you can still see it. The crowd rising, the quick pull-ups, the Spurs stunned. TMac exploding into one of the wildest scoring bursts the league has ever seen. That's why his story lingers, because the proof never really disappeared. Even when the bigger ending didn't come, the brilliance kept showing up in flashes people couldn't forget. And that's what makes the injuries hurt more. Because injury stories are always painful. But they become something else when the player is this beautiful to watch. Back problems, knee issues, the body getting in the way of something that still felt larger than the resume. That changes the whole emotional texture of a career. Now, people stop talking only about greatness. Now, they start talking about loss. What should have happened. What more there should have been. What the league never got to fully see. That happened to Tracy McGrady. And maybe that's why his story still lands with such a specific sadness. Because some players leave behind debate. TMac leaves behind longing. Longing for more healthy years, more playoff wins, more time, more proof on the biggest stages, more of the version of him that made basketball look so easy that it almost felt unfair. That is powerful, because it means the talent was so undeniable that even now, years later, people still feel the absence. That only happens with rare players. Players whose game was too gifted to disappear into ordinary basketball memory. Tracy McGrady is one of those players. Not because he lacked accomplishments. He didn't. 7 All-Star teams, 7 All-NBA selections, 2 scoring titles. One of the most unforgettable scoring talents of his generation. That's real. But the reason his story still aches is because even all of that doesn't quiet the feeling. The feeling is the NBA never got enough from one of its most naturally gifted stars. That's the tragedy. Not that TMac was great. That was obvious. It's that great never got enough room. And maybe that's why his name still carries that very specific kind of pain. Because people don't talk about Tracy McGrady like a player they merely respected. They talk about him like something beautiful slipped away before the story was finished. One of the most gifted players the league ever had, and one it never fully got enough from. If you want more basketball stories about greatness the game never fully got to keep, subscribe to Hardwood Untold.